Which leads us to ask the question, what does it mean in the church when we talk about anxiety? Anxiety is a feeling, okay? And it's often triggered in the church by feelings of uncertainty or feelings of change, right? When something changes, we feel anxious. Okay? Now, anxiety isn't good or bad. It just kind of is. Okay? It's neutral. We all feel anxious from time to time. But what we want to work on is what we do with our anxiety, how we navigate those feelings of anxiety. And do we loop others into our anxiety and we try to get them anxious too? Because anxiety is contagious, if you think about it. Okay? Or do we recognize that we're feeling uncomfortable about something? Maybe we're feeling uneasy, and we take some time to reflect and try to figure out why. Why am I so uncomfortable with what is going on? Now, we all experience anxiety. It happens to all of us. It happens to all of us. I feel anxious, for instance, when my wife decides that we need to rearrange the furniture. And when I say we decide, it means she decides. And when I say we rearrange the furniture, it means I rearrange the furniture. Now, I'm not the only one who feels anxious when things are different. Ask my dog, Ari, our dog Ari, because she will hide under the bed for about a week after we move the furniture around. She feels anxious. And change, just like at home for me and for Ari, change is probably the biggest cause for anxiety here in the church. When things change, we have a tendency to feel anxious. And the reality is, change is happening around us all the time. Things change here in the church. As life goes on, things change. And sometimes we can get nostalgic and we can talk about the good old days. I remember the good old days. Do you remember the good old days? Okay. And when we talk about the good old days, we want to pay attention to what we mean when we talk about the good old days. Because did we really, if we're honest, did we really like it better in the good old days? Or are we romanticizing this idea of this feeling that we had when maybe we were younger and maybe we had more energy and maybe our bodies worked differently than they do now, and maybe there were people in our lives who were here and have since either moved away or even passed away, right? We have romantic ideas of what it was like when those people were here with us. Now, either of those could be true, right? But it's usually that second piece, right? We're romanticizing this idea of how things were before, because we were comfortable then, and we're not so comfortable now. We like the couch where it was before. When we came home and we went to the refrigerator and we got out a cold soda and we sat down and we watched our favorite TV show or our favorite game. And now that the couch is moved, well, it doesn't feel the same as it felt a week ago. Now, when the couch gets moved, how do I respond? How do I respond? Do I come here and complain to anyone who will listen? I suppose I'm kind of doing that now, aren't I? But that doesn't mean it's a healthy response. It isn't helpful for me to try to get your sympathy, because what happens if you go to Brandy and you say, Brandy, why are you making Father Tim and Ari disrupt their lives by moving the furniture? That's not terribly helpful, is it? Because you, who may not have even set foot inside our house, might join me in longing for the way it was, right along with me and right along with Ari. Okay? Instead, a healthy response would be to say, well, I'm sure you enjoyed it that way, but doesn't the new way have some benefits with it too? Because think about it. Now the couch is closer to that refrigerator. So if you want a second soda, you can go get it without taking as many steps. Or there's a straight shot now to the restroom too. So there are benefits that can come from that change. And now you've got everything you need right at your fingertips. Now see how that response doesn't ignore my feelings, because you listened to what I had to say, and you responded to what I had to say, and you even added to the conversation, but you didn't join in that spiral and commiserate with me. Okay? In this case, you acknowledged my discomfort, and you allowed me the space and the opportunity to feel what it was that I needed to feel. And then after you do that, then I might be able to say, you know what, you've got some really good points. You've got some good points. I had to sacrifice maybe a little bit of the comfort that I felt before, but now I get so much more out of it. I get so much more out of it. I just had to be willing to look around and recognize it and to receive it. And that's what happens here in the church when we grow the church. When we grow the church. Because anytime we grow the church, change comes along. The dynamics are different. And the truth is, things are never going to be the same as they were 10 years ago, much less 40 years ago, because we're moving forward as a community. We're moving forward together. People change. Right? The people who are here change. We change. We grow. We're different people today than we were a year ago. And we'll be different people a year from now than we are now. And Jesus instructs us to move past our anxiety by welcoming the change. Now, in our gospel reading today, we're talking about the children. We're talking about children. But this could really be true for any kind of change. Because we want to grow this church, and it's not for our benefit. It's for other people's benefit. We want other people to experience the goodness that we already know is here. We want other people to have an opportunity to feel joyful in the way that we feel joyful by being here and nourishing our relationship with God. And that means we might have to feel our anxiety. And it means we might have to acknowledge it. And then it means we might have to be okay with knowing that things are a little different than they might have been before. Because if a visitor comes and sits in the pew we usually sit in, then, well, we have to acknowledge, I guess I'm not going to sit there today. Okay? And we can come to terms with it, and we can feel what we need to feel. And then you know what we do? We welcome that visitor, and we let them know that if they have any questions about how to navigate the service, we're here to help them, and we're here to answer any questions they might have. If a child fusses during the service, then we can acknowledge that maybe it's a small distraction. And then we can ask the parents how we might be supportive of them. Because trust me, parents are far more conscientious about the disruption than the rest of us are. It means that we continue to make improvements to our church building and our campus. And we acknowledge that things are different. And then we celebrate the growth and the change. And we celebrate that we're able to move forward. You know what goes a long way to helping us celebrate? Food. Food is a wonderful way to enhance our celebration. And today you got to eat pancakes. What a great way to celebrate. I hope that you had your fill. I hope you got a chance to eat as many as you wanted. And Jesus knew that too. Jesus knew that food is what brings us together because he used food in the sacrament of the Eucharist, the sacrament that brings us together in this place. Bread and wine, those were common food and drink in the days of Jesus. And that's what we use in our celebration of communion. And it's not a coincidence that the word communion sounds a whole lot like the word community. They share the same root. These are things that we do together. We celebrate communion together. Anxiety is not a bad thing. It just is. But our growth comes in acknowledging our anxiety and then digging deeper to understand it. Because there's two questions we want to get to the bottom of. What's going on? And now, okay, what's really going on? Because that second question, the answer to that second question, that's where the anxiety lives. What's really going on? And we have to be self-reflective to dig down and get to it. Why do I really feel anxious about this situation? Change makes us all anxious. But change also helps us to grow. And we want to grow our faith. We want to grow our church in faith and in love together. And that way the anxiety that we experience doesn't get the best of us. Now here to